Welcome back to Daybreak. We're with Gladys and Gladys Wanga, both women representative from Uasin Gishu and Homa Bay County, respectively. And we want to talk about the return of Miguna Miguna. This is on page 6 of the Daily Nation. Miguna free to return with no drama. The declaration forestalled showdown like the one that marked his deportation in 2018. And the paper says that the plane carrying Miguna Miguna will touch down at the JKIA at 9 p.m. and the government's communicated that it will facilitate the return of the lawyer in line with the 2018 High Court order and has taken wind of Miguna's sails as the chaos anticipated may not be witnessed. So I don't know, I mean, what is the significance of this return despite the contestation that has been between the executive, the judiciary and Miguna Miguna himself?
The return has not much significance. I think Miguna was expecting drama at the airport, although I don't even know who was going to cause the drama, maybe just Miguna himself, and then, you know.
Because you ditched him.
Yeah, I mean, really,
ODM ditched him.
Who was going to cause the drama? It would just be Miguna himself doing drama at the airport and so on. I mean, because Miguna imagines that because you type on Twitter, actually there are going to be people at JKIA in their hundreds and thousands, like sometimes I see him write, to receive him and to demonstrate. No.
Has ODM left Miguna Miguna because his deportation was because of ODM?
Miguna left ODM.
But his
and
deportation
Miguna left the
after
cause.
the quote-unquote the swearing in of Baba.
Yeah, you see, Miguna says he's the one who, you know, was behind the swearing in, was behind the resist movement.
Of your party.
Miguna was a Johnny come lately. Miguna came so late in the process, and just because he talks, you know, he has a loud mouth, he was able to now come to the forefront. But Miguna was never behind the engine. And I can tell you this as somebody who was the one who was at the center of the resistance.
I'm very impressed to hear. I've been impressed to hear that because I know people, members of NASA, who broke their legs. My colleague, Honorable Bui, broke his leg during the time they
that is true.
had gone to go and support Miguna. I mean, he had a fever pitch.
We were not supporting Miguna. Bui broke his leg when we had gone to receive Baba from the airport.
Okay.
So this was never about Miguna, but Miguna took a center, you know, stage.
But
and
Miguna
said,
was
I'm
your
the
one
one who did this.
Miguna was really at the center of
and he was
ODM.
so Johnny come lately because Miguna himself
was
an ardent Jubilee supporter until August 27. In fact, if you ask Miguna who he voted for in August, he voted for Jubilee and Uhuru.
How do you know that?
But no, if you ask him, because he was never a NASA supporter until after. Then he became so, you know,
Honorable
so
Wanga,
and fast.
I'm going to be very worried about being her friend because she can disown me like tomorrow.
No, it is the
Interesting.
truth.
No, wait a minute. Interesting that I should say that he actually voted for the Jubilee Party. Honestly, we do not know that unless he told you.
Let me say
but
it is likely, because he was not a NASA supporter, it is likely he voted Uhuru.
So maybe anyway, let's say this about, I think.
But let me just finish my point about Miguna coming back. And the person who's written this story is very right, because there was the idea that Miguna would be stopped and so on. So I want to thank, you know, the president very much. He said Miguna is free to come back, and everybody, every Kenyan is free to come back, and,
but he didn't
Miguna
say
can come back
in those exact terms.
You know.
All right. So, Honorable before we come to you, I'd love Wanga to clarify for us this statement. The fact that Dr. Miguna, as much as you were saying he joined the party late.
Very late.
At the end of the day, he was there on that
historic
day
was all of
ODM.
us. All of us were there. Me, I was there by 8.
Deported.
I was there by 8 a.m.
He was deported for supporting your political candidate.
And this is why I said we did not want, I mean, in the beginning, we all thought, oh, so why is Miguna being president? You saw Raila himself going to the airport to try and get him in.
So has ODM disowned Miguna?
Miguna disowned ODM. If you saw the amount of insults he has been throwing on the party, on Raila, on everybody. I mean, how would you associate with somebody
anyway,
like
now
that?
he's no longer
Thinking like thinking like he's the one who owned the whole, you know, process, you know, that happened. And that is what I'm trying to say.
All right.
He was part of the process, yes, but he was never the owner of the process. In any case, he came very late.
Honorable Shile, your thoughts on this?
Yeah, my thoughts on this is that I think this shows something, a very good sign. By the way, it's the Director General, Muteshi, who it was him who had been sued. It's them who went to court, and then the immigration department agreed to accept the court's decision, which they should actually.
Right.
Because you can't have the government, you know, disobeying a court order. So this was from a court order. It was not a decision of the government. Also, and I think that's a good sign, if we can have government respecting the courts, I think it is the good way to go. But also you'll notice that Miguna has not received a blank check. They have said, provided he produces
the right documents.
The operative word is provided he produces the correct documentation.
So
if he appears at the airport and attempts to, brings his Canadian visa, he will have to pay for his, I mean a Canadian passport. He will have to apply for a visa and pay the $50 or $100 that is required, and then for him to enter the country. Then once he has entered the country, he goes to immigration and applies for his Kenyan passport. So as long as Miguna is willing to follow the law, because even last time when he came in, had he just simply, you know, followed the laws, because no one can, you can't enter a country with an identity card. You have to have a passport.
So at the end of the day, for Dr. Miguna, Honorable Shule, can he fully express himself here in Kenya without fear of him rubbing the government the wrong way and then being deported
again? I don't think anyone, I think it became a big deal because he was declining to follow the law. But if he comes in, presents, applies for his visa as required, goes through the motions, then makes applications like the rest of us we do for our passports, there's been no drama at all.
But also be politically active here in Kenya.
Yes, I think he can be. Already he's politically active in Kenya through Twitter.
Moving forward, Honorable Shule, how do you ensure, and Honorable Wanga, how do you ensure that such a thing does not happen again, that when someone is engaged in some political activity that may not be acceptable to the powers that be, that they're taken through a proper judicial system without having to be intimidated the way Dr. Miguna was treated? The
question is, I don't know, did you read the deportation order? Because you've got to look at the deportation order, because that's where the reasons for your deportation would be.
Obviously, they were talking about a Kenyan.
I would want to see the deportation order, then I can tell you whether it was a legitimate or illegitimate.
They were talking about an individual who did not have a valid passport.
Maybe Gladys knows what was in the... What was in the deportation order?
Honorable
because
Wanga,
they supported his, they didn't agree with the deportation order. So probably they were privy to
Honorable Wanga, so here he is a Kenyan because he was born in Kenya, but it was argued that because he had taken the Canadian citizenship at a time that dual citizenship wasn't allowed, now he was no longer Kenyan.
No, I can clarify for you that issue. What used to happen is that in the past, when we were not allowed dual citizenship, if you took up Canadian citizenship, then you'd have to relinquish your Kenyan citizenship. Many Kenyans did that. And then, at some point, before the new constitution came in, there was a law passed saying, you're no longer required to surrender your Kenyan passport, even if the law of dual citizenship has not come in place. So Miguna surrendered his Kenyan citizenship at the time when he took up his Canadian citizenship. Many people and many friends I know have since come back, and even through the embassies abroad, have gone back with their old ID or shown a copy of their birth certificate and so on, and the documentation to show that they surrendered their passport, and they make the application, and they're usually, it's a very smooth process. You're usually eligible immediately. They don't even, once they just do the check, because they have your file at immigration. I've not heard of any one single person who has applied to get back their Kenyan citizenship and they have failed. So what had happened is that Miguna had just failed to make that application to get back his Kenyan citizenship, which is a very simple process.
All that is fine, but what I'm asking you is, how do you ensure that in future we do not have a repeat situation of someone who does not agree with the government in power?
You're losing the point here.
Was the solution to deport him?
No, the point is, if he didn't have the correct papers to be in Kenya as a foreigner, because he was a foreigner at that stage and remains a foreigner until he applies for a Kenyan passport back, or his Kenyan citizenship back.
I believe where Sam is going with the question is, Dr. Miguna, can he
express
himself here in Kenya without fear of him being deported again? Can he fully, once he lands,
if you get a visa like everybody else, how many foreigners are in Kenya? You apply for a visa, or if you're working, you have a work permit. There's many ways of being able to be in Kenya without...
Can he politically express himself without fear of deportation?
Yes, I think he can.
I think people express themselves. Even Alice Wahome the other day was, bashing the president directly. Nobody has deported Alice Wahome. So Miguna is free to come back. He's free to say whatever rubbish he wants to say or whatever he wants to express himself. I mean, he can, because Miguna talks a lot of rubbish, sorry to say. I mean, because he insults people, he goes personal, he attacks personalities. He does not focus on issues sometimes because he focuses a lot on insults. Don't all politicians
get to that point at some point?
So what I'd like to say is Miguna is free to come back. Okay. Of course, he can come in, he can say whatever he wants without deportation. At the point, the case that was brought before for Miguna was what Boss has said, that he had not reapplied for his citizenship after losing it to Canadian citizenship. But everybody saw, of course, that there was a political intonation to it, and Miguna did not help by, going ahead and even abandoning us. For a long time, we supported Miguna, and said he should come back until he started to, throw tantrums at everybody. And I think Miguna must understand that, as I said earlier, and he will understand when he comes back that, insults and so on are not what foment a revolution.
From where you sit, do you think the presence of Dr. Miguna coming back into the country will be a disruption?
For what?
Do you think it will cause disruptions in the country?
Which disruption? And as I told you, even if Miguna were to come back...
Not at JKIA, in our political conversations.
There will be absolutely zero disruption except on Twitter. The only disruption that will happen will be on Twitter. So really, if Miguna is expecting to cause some sort of revolution, no. It will be on social media, on Facebook and Twitter, yes. On the ground,
there's something
before you ask me a question, I just want to comment
It's a follow-up to what you just said, because you're saying that he lost his citizenship when he took up the Canadian citizenship.
He surrendered his Kenyan citizenship.
You said that, but he claimed that he never renunciated it. But is it a possibility that you can lose your citizenship, which you have as a birthright?
Yeah, the moment you take, at that time the law was, the moment you take a foreign citizenship, you automatically lose your Kenyan citizenship. So whether you surrender it or don't surrender it. In fact, the best way is to surrender it.
That was prior to Kenya's dual citizenship.
Dual citizenship, yes. Okay, can I just comment on something that my colleague here has said? That Alice Wahome was bashing the president. I have gone through that script because I was away when everything happened. I've gone through that script. Alice Wahome did not insult the president. Alice Wahome said that the administration has lost focus on development. She said that BBI has begun to be about succession and has taken over the development agenda of the government, which we all believe in. She went on to say that we should protect the gains. She cautioned the president that we must protect the democratic gains that we have made from the time of the old constitution and the current constitution, freedom of expression and so on. She went on to say that we must protect the independence of the judiciary. Those are not insults. Those are factual statements. And in fact, she was just in making those statements, she was simply performing her job as Member of Parliament for Kandara by oversighting the executive. So that is, hold on, I haven't finished yet. I'll allow you to. If you'll
allow me, or the moderators?
The moderators will allow you. Okay, I said just let me allow me. Then I'm asking. So that is her job. Actually, we are supposed to oversight. Okay. And remember, even for the opposition, that has been the traditional job of the opposition is to oversight government, the executive, and to criticize the executive. And now we see, and maybe when you see people like Alice Wahome coming forward, is maybe they feel that the opposition has forgotten its role as having oversight over, they are rubber stamping the executive instead of being oversighting it. And let me talk about the issue of insults, and let's be honest about this. If there is anyone on record who has insulted Uhuru Kenyatta with the worst words that cannot be printed, that I cannot repeat, is Gladys Wanga.
No.
And we can look at the clips. What comment did you make about the president shortly after the elections were nullified and the president went to Githurai? What did you call it?
All right, Honorable Shelley.
So let us look at what did Raila say about the president.
We'll give Wanga
so
right.
Everybody,
Honorable Shelley.
I mean, so when we talk about insults, let those who have never made any insults.
Honorable Shelley,
let's be orderly.
If Shelley will speak the entire show, then I might as well leave, and the show can go on with Shole alone.
And
we will directly give you a
just hold up.
response.
Yeah,
just hold up.
If it is going to be Shole
But let's
alone
have that
speaking,
clip.
then let me leave the show so that you and Shole can have the show.
Honorable Wanga, that will not be necessary
No, we'll
because
give you a right of reply.
I want us to be orderly because we need to. We are talking about the situation of Miguna Miguna. There's still a conversation we haven't concluded. Maybe we'll do that some other time. Because the High Court ruled in November 2019, this was the case involving Mwende Mwinzi, the ambassador nominee to Seoul, South Korea, that she cannot be forced to renounce her U.S. citizenship as it was acquired by birth. So a citizenship by birth is pretty protected. I still don't understand how Miguna Miguna would have lost his citizenship, but we'll continue that conversation, including the politics in 2020. We are setting the agenda for the year. We'll be talking about that after the break. You can text in your views and questions via 22422 and at Citizen TV Kenya, that is on Twitter. The hashtag to use is the break. We are back in a moment.